and welcome to the Gritty Nurse Podcast, an unfiltered discourse related to nursing and healthcare. My name is Amy.
And my name is Sarah.
And we are your podcast hosts. So today we'll probably be talking a little bit about what's it like to actually work over the Christmas holidays or any holidays really. But we might just kind of recap what we talked about last week. So Sarah, do you want to do a quick recap?
Yeah, so we just talked about examining error in healthcare and what kinds of things you can do if you do make an error in the workplace, and how in healthcare now we're sort of moving away from blame and more looking at systems issues and things that can be done to prevent the same error from happening again. So we talked about our personal experiences of that, and also what kinds of safeguards are in place in hospitals and healthcare in general.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we kind of talked about. So, but anyways, let's say Merry Christmas to our listeners and or Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, other different things that we might be celebrating over this time. And maybe I'll kind of talk quickly about my Christmas holidays, if you don't mind. Essentially, I had a very low-key Christmas, and that's kind of how I like them. No drama. Just had my parents up, my sister and my niece and her husband. And yeah, it was just really quiet, low-key. The kids got their favorite gifts from Santa. So my son had asked for a Lionel Polar Express train. So we got him the Christmas train. My other son wanted, I think it was like a laser tag game, so we got him that. And my daughter had asked for, of course, Frozen 2, so we got her some Frozen 2 dolls.
Nice.
And in terms of a gift exchange for myself and my husband, we really didn't do that, so
yeah,
he got me a shirt for, because the other thing that maybe you guys don't know about me is I actually do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he got me a nice little shout out shirt to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It essentially says tap, snap, or nap. So yeah, it's kind of a cool little thing, and I just got him a book. So
nice.
But it was just very quiet, low key, and of course we did not have traditional foods at our home here. We had I think we had curry chicken, a roast beef, rice. We had some potato salad. It was definitely not a traditional Christmas meal, but nonetheless, I thought it was pretty good.
I don't know if you told me that you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but don't mess with you.
Oh yeah, so it's kind of funny. So actually, my boys started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu about 2 months ago, and I was watching and I found it. I was just like, oh, this is really really neat. And so I started about 6 weeks ago myself as well. So I'm still a white belt. I'm still really fresh, but I actually had I know I'm kind of deviating from our topic here, but I actually had a really like cool moment because we haven't actually spoken. I didn't get to tell you about this, but we actually spar people that it could be any gender. So I could be sparring with a male, sparring with a female, because really Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's not about the size of the person. It's really actually about skill. It's kind of like a game of chess, really. And it's really about how, what would you do if a fight went to the ground? So like if I fell down and someone was attacking me, how would I be able to support myself in that type of position where someone might be pinning me down or holding me down or whatever the case may be?
Well, depending on what area you work in, this may come in handy one day.
Actually, you know what? I think it's a wonderful sport to get into. So actually, the class was about an hour and a half on last Saturday, and my last sparring match was between a guy that was probably about 285 pounds. And so we started to spar, and I said, can you just give me like 5 seconds to catch my breath? Because like, if anybody knows anything about sparring, it's intensely, and it's so, I don't even know what the word for it. It's so tiring. I just needed a breather. And I guess he didn't hear me, so he actually kind of hit me across the face and stunned me. So I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh my God. So he's kind of getting me into an arm bar, and he had me in this like really weird position. and I was getting scared because I didn't think he knew what he was really doing, and I didn't want to get hurt. So I tapped, and then our coach came over, and he's like, "Oh, he's like, no, 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 this isn't done. That wasn't an armbar. You need to keep going." And I'm like, I look up at the timer, and there's still like 3 minutes to this match. I'm like, oh my god, I have another 3 minutes to spar with this guy that's like 285 pounds.
Oh man.
So we continue sparring, and he's like pushing his head into my chest and like keep on like pushing me over. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit on the bottom. I'm gonna just relax while he's spending all his energy trying to keep me down. And eventually, he put his head into my chest far enough that I was able to actually reach up, reach around his head, and put him in a guillotine. So, if anybody who's in MMA knows what a guillotine is, it's essentially it's a chokehold, and he started to wiggle, and then I really got him into this chokehold, and he tapped. My husband almost jumped off of his seat. I was so shocked. I was like, oh shit, I just made this guy tap. So it was quite rewarding for me because, of a female who's about 150 pounds herself, I was able to make a 285-pound male tap. So pretty exciting, but not Christmassy, but another little tidbit about your gritty nurse, one of your gritty nurse hosts.
More like
Don't
scrappy
mess with
nurse.
me. Yeah, Scrappy Nurse podcast.
Yeah. That's
But yeah, speaking, not to keep speaking about me, but like, how was your Christmas, Sarah?
so mine was kind of low key as well. We went to my parents' house, so I don't have any siblings, it's just my parents. So we had a nice dinner. My dad is a real minimalist when it comes to things, so he actually specifically asked me not to buy him anything. And I was like, okay. And then my mom is the opposite, so she tells me every year what she wants. So I got her the space cream, and I got her pajama set, and that's what she wanted. Um, but before that, so earlier this December, we celebrated my grandmother's 107th birthday. Um,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, so I probably told you like how awesome I think it is that she's the age that she is, and she's still in pretty good health, and she knew what was going on, and she pretty much just arrives, and then she sits in her seat, and then we all take pictures, like all different combinations of the cousins and the aunts and uncles and the grandkids and the great grandkids, and she just sits there like she's Santa Claus, and she smiles, and she really
Oh
enjoys it.
my goodness, that's so sweet.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there's like, because my mom is one of seven, right? So there's quite a few of us.
wow.
And so for that reason, we do this dinner, but on Christmas, we don't actually all celebrate together because that would be almost 50 people at this point. Um, but that's how we started our holidays this year. And then on the weekend, my in-laws are coming over. And in terms of presents, we mostly just got the kids, like my son is really into Lego right now, so we got him a bunch of Lego sets. And from Santa,
Like small Legos or like big Legos?
like the small ones, like different kits that you would put together,
Oh
like
yeah, okay,
making
okay.
a car or making a robot of some kind. And then he
Cool, cool.
asked Santa for an iPad this year, so he got his iPad.
Oh my
That was the big
goodness.
thing. And then my daughter just got like stuffies because she's only 2, so we want to set the bar low for her. So she didn't get anything like no technology yet.
Oh no, you're not gonna get away with that because she's like, oh, how come my brother has an iPad? Don't worry, you'll see. You'll see the struggle.
Well, we kind of had like not an iPad, but just like a tablet ready for her. So we gave
Right.
her um my son's old tablet so she wouldn't feel totally left out. So she has something,
Okay, okay.
but not as nice as his, of course. And then for my
Right.
husband, I kind of got a gift that I actually is more for me. I got him an air fryer because I really wanted one, and I just bought it for him, saying it was for him. But I think I'm gonna probably use it more. And then I got him
That's
just like
funny.
practical stuff, like a new coffee grinder, and a new beard trimmer. So I didn't even.
You should get the cape with the beard trimmer though now, because otherwise you'll be cleaning up all the little beard hair trimmings.
I feel like I already do that. You're right. I need to.
Sucks, right? See, you should have. You need the cape
I need
now.
to step it up.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So
But
like,
yeah, it sounded like we both had a really good Christmas though.
yeah, and we both didn't work over the holidays, but I think we can both recall times not too far ago where we did. and what it was like as
Right.
nurses working over the holidays. Um, so I think like for the area that we used to work in, at least for me working in mother baby, the holidays were just like an endless barrage of treats from patients, especially, and from doctors, and
Yeah.
just like, and then there's like potlucks and all kinds of things that are just meant to fill your belly with lots of unhealthy but very good food. Um,
Right. And we know, yes, the day shift typically gets the better food, and night shift gets the leftovers, but night shift tends to party harder than the day shift.
I
So, I mean, there should be, you got to balance it a little bit, right? Like I remember working Christmas at one of the hospitals I was at, and actually, so of course we got the leftover pizza that was cold and left out for God knows how long. But I remember one of the nurses brought in one of her. It's not a hoverboard. What is it? Maybe it is called a hoverboard. It has wheels and you kind of have to balance on it. And we're all like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And she's like, "This is my Christmas present. I'm opening my present, so like I'm gonna ride down the hallway on this hoverboard." And I was just like, "Oh my god, this is like an accident waiting to happen." Does she not fall? Of course she does. And then all these other nurses are trying it, falling off of this damn thing. I'm just like, "Oh my god, you guys! If anybody sees this, we're done." And they're just like, "No, it's Christmas. We get to open gifts here too." So I mean, it was dead. Night shift had some good fun.
well, these are the
I
things that
mean,
could only happen on night shift. You can't have a hoverboard going around in the middle of the day. Oh,
yeah. And I mean, technically there should have been at least 4 IRSs put in for all the falls that the nurses sustained that night. But everyone walked away, and we're still able to come back to work the next day. So no WSIB claims. Everyone's safe and good.
were you the one that was telling me that you worked with someone that had a bread maker in the locker room? Or was that someone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, no, no, no. It wasn't me. I think you might have told me this, but refresh my memory.
No, I didn't tell you. I was in a conversation probably in the last month where someone I talked to said that she used to work with a nurse that kept a bread maker in her locker, like in the staff room, and then would bring it out on nights and plug it in the staff kitchen, and like had all
Oh
the
my god.
ingredients for a fresh loaf of bread, and then in the middle of the night, I think before the break started, she would mix the dough and then she would turn it on. So then at the end of the break, it would be like this loaf of bread, and some of the patients would even be like, "What is this?" And they'd be like,
What's that
"Nothing,
smell?
nothing. You're not smelling anything. I'm not sure what you're talking about." But that wasn't
Oh
you
my
then. That must
god.
have been someone else I was talking to.
No, no, it wasn't me. Oh, that's amazing. You know what? We're nurses tend to be very inventive, and it's kind of funny. Like I think the main thing I remember nurses making on nights were popcorn. Like popcorn was the thing, right? They just would pop popcorn on nights and fill the whole hall smelling of popcorn.
Hmm.
And of course, you have to be very careful with any of your foods. You're not supposed to leave them unattended. But I know popcorn was a huge hit.
Well, popcorn is one of those things that once you make it, the smell lingers for hours, and that could be a good or a bad thing.
That's true. That's true.
But I
So
think one of the I don't want to say the worst, but when I was a new nurse, I had to work 4 night shifts over Christmas, which is still ingrained in my mind because I'm
right.
like, you can't possibly get a worse schedule than that. I don't think. It was like,
Well, it seems like new people get dumped on, right? Like it's like, oh, you're the newbie, so let's look at the holidays. We're gonna give you all of the holidays that nobody else wants to work.
yeah.
And of course they say, oh, you won't get it next year, but you still will get the like shittiest of the shit schedule.
Well, see, like after that year, so I had to work the 4 nights in a row, and I felt like I didn't have much of a Christmas at all. Somehow it was the year after that, or maybe the year after that, that somehow I didn't have to work Christmas or New Year's, and I didn't say a word to anybody because I felt like it was
Holy
some kind of
crap.
mistake. I didn't want to draw any attention to the fact that this was my schedule. I don't know how I got it, but I just kind of sailed through and didn't say anything. And maybe that was because it was so bad the year before.
The year before. Oh man. So how did that make you feel like working 4 nights in a row? Like I mean, I think doing 2 nights in a row is tough, and I know there's nurses that do all night shifts, but like working all nights over the Christmas holidays, that's kind of
Yeah,
got to be a little bit of a
it
bummer.
was not great. I mean, I feel like I didn't have much of a Christmas because even though I got all my shifts out of the way and I didn't have to work New Year's. It was just, I'm not a night person to begin with. I'm a day shift person. That's always been my thing. So having to work nights and then having to work the four in a row. And I remember looking around thinking like, oh, okay, so it's all of us young nurses. There's only one or two senior nurses. It was, there was some fun parts and the other parts like, I remember one Christmas I worked. This was when I worked in NICU. We actually had a baby die on Christmas Day, so that was pretty hard on
Oh
me.
my God.
Yeah, and that was
That's pretty awful.
so that was when we were one big open unit, and so you could see everything that was happening. It wasn't my patient, but it was not good. It was not good at all.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then when
Yeah.
that mom
Well, that's pretty.
came back and they had to break the news to her, that was not good. It was because, like I said, it was an open unit, so everybody could see her crying, like she was just hysterical. And she kept
Oh no.
thinking that it was something that she had done, and she said, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have held my baby that one time. Do you think that the baby got something from
Yikes.
me?" And it was just really, really unfortunate.
Oh no. That's really sad and unfortunate. I mean, as much as Christmas can be a happy time, it can also be a really sad time too. Like I mean, I know I'm kind of still deviating, but I I just kind of opened up my news feed this morning as I woke up, and I was like, oh man, this guy he committed suicide. I think it was um, some one of the accusers of that accused Kevin Spacey of I think it was like sexual assault, and he committed suicide on Christmas Day. So I mean, and I think he was like 47. So it's not like he was an older dude. And I think the holidays too can put a lot of stress on people, and especially around this time of year, I feel like if you don't have that social support network, that it can be really, really stressful. And even just as us being nurses, we deal with a lot of really heavy stuff. And I think over the holidays, I think if you can, even if you have like a crappy schedule, like how you had, like you're working 4 days on and or 4 nights, I think you said that maybe Christmas isn't that day, but maybe you spend it differently. Like you spend it with your friends and family beforehand or afterwards. Because I know I know the other thing that I kind of used to run into when I was a nurse too. My family members would be like, "Oh, why don't you just get that off?" And it's like it's not that easy.
Oh
Like
my
the
God,
hospital doesn't shut down.
that was the
Y-
worst, like the most annoying conversations I would have with people too. Like if I had a wedding to go to, people would say, "Why don't you just explain that it's a wedding?" I'm like, every weekend is somebody's wedding, anniversary, christening, baby shower.
right.
It doesn't matter. And especially with nursing, because everything is so based on seniority. When you're starting out, you really
Yeah.
have no leg to stand on unless you have an amazing switch buddy, or you get some kind of special treatment. I just think that you have to put in your time before you get a better schedule. You have to move up that
Oh,
list.
absolutely. And it's just and I think if you know that you want you want those days off, and like you said, you have a good switch buddy, start having those conversations early, being like, hey, if this is what happens, can I swap with you? Or even speak to some of your coworkers who might not have family members that they're celebrating with, or Christmas isn't a big holiday or whatever to them, to see if they're willing to switch with you. But I think explaining to your family members and your friends that like I can't just not work these holidays. Like people are still sick. It's not like it's not like a Walmart that they're like, at the hospital, we're going to close early now and send everybody home.
Yeah, I just find it so
EMS
interesting.
workers, nurses, police, like we all have to still get out there and make sure that people are safe and being looked after. And I think it's a really it's kind of a weird concept to try to have to explain that to somebody, but it's just like, yeah, I can't get this off because I'm taking care of someone's life.
Yeah, I know.
So really, like if you think about it too, like I mean, I think the people who have to work these holidays, like I said, like they're heroes, right? Like they're really going above and beyond. And I think um, if you can change your attitude, so yeah, it sucks that you might be having to work over the holidays, but if you can think of it and frame it in a different way, be like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make someone's day Christmas morning because they're gonna get Nurse Amy or they're gonna get Nurse Sarah, and I'm gonna provide them with the most special Christmas. Because I mean, could you imagine being on the receiving end, like being in the hospital over the holidays, like, or being sick. Like, I don't think the clock stops for people who are ill either. It's not like, oh, my diagnosis of cancer is not going to come on Christmas Day. Like,
Yeah, totally.
it sucks for them too, right? So I think we just have to have a different outlook on that whole experience, to say, hey, maybe I can do something for this patient and family. I actually read an article. It just came up. It was a nurse at Trillium Health Partners, and I think she came in and played the violin and just started playing like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer down the halls. And I think what they were saying in the article was just the fact of that music. Just everyone was maybe kind of gloomy because they're working in the hospital, but just that music lifted everyone's spirits. And I think if you have a special talent or skill, I think those are probably one of the perfect opportunities to kind of bring that out and let it shine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that you can really set the tone for your unit. So if everybody's sort of down and glum about having to work the holidays, you could just bring that new perspective of being positive and just spreading that positive energy to your coworkers, organizing some kind of activity that can be done. Or you know I know that the hospital that we used to work at, one of the hospitals, they would order special shirts for nurses that had to work over certain holidays like Easter,
Right,
whatever.
right,
And
right.
that kind of just brought everyone together in a positive way. So it's like, hey, we're team Christmas 2019, or we're team Easter 2019. And that was their way of just making it better in a little bit of a fun way.
Yeah, just add that kind of fun, that element of, just kind of lifting spirits. And like I said, it's not a good time. It may not be a good time for someone else too, right? So I think trying to be as positive as you possibly can is somewhat helpful. But I could tell you, my experiences on night shifts working over the holidays, I think for me, I think I did work, of course, Christmas and New Year's as well. But like, I mean, we just made the best of it, and we just had a lot of fun. And I had to have those conversations with my family, be like, okay, so can we do Christmas on, the 27th? And I mean, I think for the most part, people are pretty amenable and flexible to try to accommodate your schedule. And even having something beforehand is helpful too. But I think just making light of the situation, just trying to, bring that smile to someone's face, to say that, hey, I'm here with you, and we're celebrating the holidays together. I think just having a positive outlook is the best. But I mean, what about when it's not so positive, right? Like, how do we help? Like, for example, I saw a couple tweets actually today of nurses having horrible shifts. So like, what do we say to them? What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, because you could have a terrible shift anytime, right? But it's like doubly compounded by the fact that you're missing your own family's Christmas possibly, and you had a really
Right,
horrible shift. I think it might sound corny, but just thinking of it as a privilege. Like, yes, you have to work over Christmas, but you have a job, right? There are people here that are struggling to find work. um, you have a home to go back to, you have a family. A lot of people don't have any of these things, and especially some patients in the hospital that may not have visitors on Christmas. You get to be that person that spends the day with them and make their day a little bit
right,
brighter,
right.
or just hold their hand, or listen to what they have to say, or be able to take their pain away in some way. So we have to just be grateful for the little things. I think that's also really important, and just having the big picture in mind, right? So it's not just working on this one day, but what am I doing for my patients today? How is this helping me grow as an individual? What kind of skills am I developing that I could maybe bring to, um, you know, my future as a nurse? Or like, how can I just use this experience to help myself grow?
For sure, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think I think nurses don't know how appreciated they are for even being there, right? I think sometimes we feel really undervalued, underappreciated, and I think that working over the holidays, I think patients get it. They know that, of course, we'd rather be with our families or whatever the case may be, or however we'd like to spend that time. But I mean, I think they understand that we're there, and we're there to support them, and I think they're very appreciative of it.
Yeah, and I have to say, when you're a nurse and you have so many patients, you kind of lose track of who they are. But if you're the patient, you remember all of your nurses, especially the ones that you really
Yeah,
liked and the ones that you didn't. And I've
That's that's
I've
very
had
true.
patients before. Like I remember being in a semi-private room and I was with my one patient and the patient on the other side was Sarah and I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, I recognize your voice from across the curtain." She's like, "You were my nurse for my first baby." But
Oh my
it was a little
goodness.
bit, it was very flattering, but a little bit unexpected that she didn't even see my face or hear my name, but she's like, I remember your voice from when I had my last baby 3 years ago. So that just goes to show that they really remember everything you do. And I know this is kind of corny too,
Yep,
but it's not always about what exactly you say or what you do, but it's how you make the people feel that they just value.
absolutely. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's my little corny quote for today.
I don't think that's corny at all. Like I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's not so much about what we say, but what we do. Our actions really can speak louder than words, and sometimes it could even just be that therapeutic touch, right? Just if someone's upset, just kind of putting your hand on their shoulder and just sometimes silence, right? I mean, I think our actions can speak volumes, especially when we know that we're working with vulnerable people over the holidays. I think they really appreciate us being there, and we should really try to kind of make that day a little bit more special, maybe even go the extra mile for them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Did you want to add anything else? Do you feel like there's anything?
No, I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything else that I can think of it right now. So,
Yeah, so I think we'll just remind you guys that we are putting out this podcast as sort of a holiday special. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy listening and you want to support us, you can definitely follow us on Twitter. Our handle is Gritty Nurse. You can also check us out on Instagram. Our handle there is Gritty Nurse Podcast, hashtag Gritty Nurse, hashtag The Gritty Nurse. So through those two channels, you can send us a question, suggestion for a podcast. Please also like, share, and subscribe. See you next time in 2020.
yeah, I can't believe it. 2020 is coming. So, big things for next year, right, Sarah?
Lots of more
Take
hot
care,
topics to
everyone.
come. Take care.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, take care.